Regular meeting for the Lake Worth Beach CRA. Today is Tuesday, October 13th, 2020, and the time is 6:02 p.m. Emily, please do roll call, please.
Mr. Tom Copeland, not present. Miss Leah Furch,
Muted.
I think Emily, you got to unmute her.
Hi, I'm here.
And Mark's muted too.
Mr. John Paxman,
Present.
Mr. Mark Rickards,
Present.
Mr. Drew Bartlett,
I'm here.
Mr. Brent Whitfield. He's there. He's being unmuted.
Hi, it said I had to be unmuted by the host or something. I'm here.
And Mr. Brendan Lynch.
Present. Okay. In regards to the agenda, are there any additions, deletions, or reordering from the board, please? Seeing none, I'd like to have approval individually on the July 14, 2020 minutes. Can I get a motion, please?
This is Drew. I move approval.
Thank you, Drew. Second? Any second?
Brent is muted.
He's trying. Just wave.
All right, I see that. Second by Commissioner Whitfield.
Okay. All those in favor, please state so by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. August 11th, 2020 minutes. Can I have a motion for approval, please?
Emily, I think you got to unmute the board members that are muted.
This is
And
Drew.
Mr.
I can move
Woods.
approval again.
Okay, thank you.
In a second?
I'll second that. It's Mark
Thank you,
Rickards.
Mark. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state so by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Thank you.
By the way, Mr. Chair, for the record, Tom Copeland's here. I just had some technical issues there, but I am here.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Emily, please note that on the record. The consent agenda, there's one item, A, wayfinding extend contract with Don Mel Signs LLC. This is the third extension. Can I get a motion to move the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, I move to
That's Tom.
adopt the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Is there a second?
I'll put in a second. That's Tom.
Thank you, Tom. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Can we unmute Leah, please, Emily, when you get a chance?
I see Mr. Paxman is muted as well.
I'll pause for a second.
All right,
Thank you.
yeah, just make sure all the commissioners are unmuted.
I'm unmuted.
And there we go. And I think the setting is that if you mute yourself, the secretary has to unmute you. So just be aware of that.
Okay, thank you, David. Let's move on to our action agenda. The first item is item A, which is the approval of development agreement and purchase and sale for property at 1715 North Dixie Highway with OAG Investment 5 LLC. And Joan, would you please give us an overview?
Certainly. The CRA assembled approximately 2.3 acres on North Dixie, just north of the mid development in 2018. We advertised an RFP number 01-1920 sometime earlier this year. and chose the proposal from OAG in August, and OAG is Office America Group. Since then, staff, our attorney, David Tulses, and representatives from OAG have been working on both of those agreements. Final drafts are in your packet for review tonight. For the most part, both conform to standard language we use in other agreements, with the exception of 2 items that we wanted the board to vote on. These include number 1, doc stamps. The developer would like the CRA to pay half the cost of those. Usually the developer pays 100%. And number 2, OAG would prefer that we rescind to the right to repurchase after foundation is poured and it's inspected by the city versus at the time of CO. Staff supports both of these changes and asks that the board approve the purchase and sale and development agreement as written. And I believe Mr. Hernandez might be on the call from OAG. Not sure.
Okay.
Yes, he is. I see him.
That being the case, I typically would want a motion and have discussion, but I think typically we allow for, in this type of situation, allow for the developer to do a quick overview and introduce themselves, and then we'll go to a motion and discussion.
Mr. Hernandez is muted.
Hello, everybody. How are you? To giving me the opportunity to talk today. We have been talking, our attorney.
If you could just state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Ricardo Hernandez. My address is 10135 Southwest 75th Place, Miami, Florida. As I was telling you, we have been working with our attorney and David on the document that was provided to us. At the beginning, we did some changes to the language, but the 2 major changes that we asked for was the payment of the document stamps, that they're going to be $17,000, approximately $17,000. You know, there is no rule who is going to pay that, but normally the seller pays for that cost. And the other change, which is the bigger one, is we talk about the repurchase provision. And according to the original document, the repurchase provision was live until the end of the project, meaning obtaining the CO. However, we started talking to lenders, and that provision is going to limit our ability to get financing for this project. So we got to a point that we agree to keep the provision until the foundation is poured. At the time of foundation, we're going to have all the financing in place. We're going to have all the approvals from the city to build the project. So I feel comfortable, and the bank, I think it's going to be comfortable having that agreement up to foundation, or not up to the end of the project. Up to the end of the project is going to be difficult to us. This is going to be a $20 million financing that we're going to need for this project. It's a big project, and we need to have all the options in order to get financing. Financing, just for you to let you know, financing today is very easy, it's very cheap, but we don't know how the market is going to be in a year from now, because we're going to be needing the financing next year, not this year. So we asked for that change, and we got to a midpoint that we agree, and also the staff agree. So it's why we're bringing this point today to the meeting.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, David.
If I could just explain from a legal perspective, pursuant to Florida statutes, the CRA is exempt from paying documentary stamp taxes on the deed. So in these situations, it's always, usually it's the seller who would pay, but when the CRA sells property, it's the buyer who pays. In this instance, they're asking us to agree to pay at least half, or up to half, I guess, of the doc stamps. I don't have the agreement right in front of me, but it's about $17,000. So if the CRA was to pay half the doc stamps, that would be about $8,500. That would be deducted from whatever the CRA was to take in at the time of the sale. The other issue is typically our right to repurchase agreements will go until the issuance of the certificate of occupancy is in hand. In this instance, and at their request, we came up with some language in their proposal to agree to release the right to repurchase upon the approval of all inspections associated with the pouring of the foundation. I think if your developer gets to the point where they're pouring a foundation, that they are going to move forward with the project. And at that point in time, we would execute a termination of the right to repurchase. So those are the two items. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
David, thank you. Mr. Hernandez, thank you. May I have a motion from the board and a second for further discussion from the board?
Well, I'm unmuted, so this is Tom. I suppose I'll put that motion forward to continue the discussion.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
I will
may I
second.
have a second. I didn't catch the seconder.
John.
Thanks, John. We have a motion and a second.
If I could, Mr. Chair.
Could you clarify the motion, Tom? Just so we're.
Yes. The motion was to accept the agenda item to start conversation about this particular action item. Is that right, Mr. Tolsis?
The motion would be to approve the
Approve it.
purchase and sale agreement and development agreement as proposed.
Oh, Mr. Chair, you said that we would take the motion so we could start the discussion on it. Are we not? Are we not having a discussion on it? Or am I misunderstanding that?
We will, but typically with Robert's Rules of Order, you either move the approval or you make a motion to not approve, and then you get a second, and then there's discussion, and then there's a final vote. So I'm looking for somebody to make a motion either for or against approval, then they have to get a second, then we have discussion, and then there's a final vote.
Oh, I understand. Okay. Well, then I would amend my motion to accept the purchase and sale agreement. Can I say pursuant to the discussion?
Or as presented.
As presented. There you go.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. John, is your second stand?
My second's good.
Okay. All right.
If I could, Mr. Chair.
Yes, David.
This applies to this item and the next item with respect to public comment.
Yes, thank you. Please.
Okay. At the appropriate time, and this is primarily for members of the public who may be listening to this meeting. This goes for this item and the next item as well. Due to the nature of the health emergency that we are all currently experiencing, and pursuant to the governor's emergency orders, the CRA has been authorized to meet through the use of communications media technology, which is what we're utilizing this evening. And the CRA, as an agency of the city, is following the city's lead in how the city conducts its public meetings. So that is why the CRA requested that if the public had any comments, that they were to submit them by yesterday afternoon. I understand that there are some individuals who did not necessarily get that message or that instruction. They have submitted public comments in writing. I believe they have been distributed to the board. So there will not be any oral comments made by the public. We don't necessarily have the technology to prevent people, in theory, from taking over a meeting. And so this, in line with what the city's done, provides the public with the opportunity to comment on items before final action is taken. Also, please note, especially with the next item, that it is only going to be, if it is approved, a motion to authorize negotiations, and that at some point in time in the future, an agreement will come back, at which time public comment will be allowed before the board formally approves that agreement. Now, with this specific item, the board is authorizing the execution of the purchase and sale agreement as amended. So this item is for approval tonight. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
David, thank you for doing that. Let's please have some discussion amongst the board. Does anyone want to start off on this particular item?
I would.
Thanks, John.
David answered my question on the doc stamp issue that I had. I just wanted to know how much, and I thought I calculated it, and I calculated it that way. The other one is, with the terminating the the right of first refusal. Is there any kind of performance bond for this project?
No.
No performance bond?
No.
And do we know what percentage of the schedule of values of the job will be complete by the time they pour the foundation and finish it?
I could let Mr. Hernandez answer that if he gets unmuted.
Yeah, regarding the bond, is going to be a bond from the GC because we're going to have a lender that is going to require a bond. So it's going to be bonded. The project is going to be bonded.
Okay.
The second question, what was the second question? Can you repeat, please?
The percentage of the schedule of values that will be complete when the foundation gets completed?
I don't have that information with me. I don't have it. You know, we're going to be all the project perform and approve, and we're going to have a lender approval to build the entire project. So when a lender gives you an approval and you sign documents with a lender, is, you know, that is going from the beginning to the end. It's very difficult that a lender, you know, stop funding the project. It's going to be to the end. I don't know how much is the percentage with the foundation, but we're going to have, you know, when we pour foundation, we're going to have all the infrastructure in place. That is, you know, that is a lot of money, and then we're going to have the entire foundation pour and with inspections and approve. That's you know what I have today. I don't have the number, the percentage.
Mr. Hernandez, who is your contractor?
It's called T&G Constructors. They were in the package when the project was submitted, and they are going to be the contractor. We're not going to change the contractor.
Okay. Any other questions from the board, please?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mark.
just a couple quick questions. One to you, David. On the doc stamp issue, have we ever had anyone ask us to share in the cost of doc stamps?
Not specifically in a contract. I mean, they've asked as we get to closing, and we tell them we're not paying it, we don't pay it, and they pay it.
Okay. That's kind of a weird issue for me, and it's almost kind of a litmus test. Like, I don't know why that's an issue with the scope of the project. Number two, my concern is in a world where the slab is poured and nothing else happens, and I don't think that's going to happen. I know the intent is to build the whole thing, and I understand the financing concern. If the slab was poured and we had a right to repurchase, I would be way more comfortable if they also agreed to assign all construction documents, permits, everything associated with the project, including architectural plans, so that if someone else had to complete construction, they wouldn't have to go with their hat in hand and ask for that. And someone would put a price tag on that of whatever they think it's worth, which is probably a lot more than zero. I think if we're going to agree to end our repurchase agreement, we should also get every single document that's attached to the construction associated with that. Is that possible to add to the contract language, or do you think that's difficult to achieve?
I mean, anything's possible. It's just a matter of negotiating. And I'm pulling up the right to repurchase to see if it include, yeah. So, you know, we would have to include that specific language.
Well, that's just my thought. I don't know if the rest of the board shares that opinion, but in a world where we're left with a slab and it may or may not include utilities or may or may not include some other things, it's a valid building permit that someone else in theory could pick up, or so that discussion can be made, but not if the CRA doesn't own anything in terms of those documents.
Well, I for one would support that. I was actually trying to think of a hedge myself, and I think that, you know, in light of the constraints with financing and not being able to have the repurchase, that's at least something. And so I would support that. Anybody else?
Yeah, so if you were going to go that way, there would need to be a trigger to somehow be able to break the escrow where those documents, the assignment documents are. You have to figure out what that trigger is. You know, no work in 6 months or something like that.
Well, we have certain development milestones, primarily the 1 year period, that they have to, hold on, trying to find the specific language. I mean, we have the development milestones, which if they don't meet those development milestones, then we have the right to exercise the right to repurchase. So the right to repurchase, bear with me 1 second. Oh, 1 minute, I gotta pull up the development agreement. My apologies.
No, it's fine. And Mr. Chair, I can explain sort of where that came from. And honestly, if it's too cumbersome to add to the contract, that's fine. It's just, I had my own, like Commissioner Paxman just wanted to hedge against a bad future. And I really don't see that future coming to be, but I have a project that got all the way past planning and zoning board, not quite the city commission, and is dropped out of contract. The seller didn't give them an extension, and they have a new buyer who wants to move on. And they're asking me what they think the full development package is worth, and it was not assigned. And I'm trying to come up with a number, and that's what got me thinking about this.
Hey,
that could be very expensive.
Yeah, the closing on the sale of the property is 45 days after the issuance of the final permit to authorize construction. Right, so they've got to get through that process and get their permit issued, and no appeals or anything are filed, and then it's 45 days, we close. Okay, so then we close on the property, and then they move forward with the construction. The other timeline then is that if they don't complete construction within 2 years from the closing date, then we would, in theory, have the right to exercise the right to repurchase the property.
No, but I think there is another milestone that I have to start the construction within 3 months after.
Right. Oh yeah, then you have to start the construction within 90 days of the issuance of the permit.
Yeah. So let's say we close, I have 90 days to start, and I have another 90 days to have the foundation and everything ready. So within that period, you have the option to repurchase, paying only the cost of the land.
Right.
That is what the document says.
Right.
And at that point, permitted impact fees paid, which is a lot of money, plus the cost of the projects, you know, architects, engineers, reports, everything is going to be ready.
Okay, any other comments from the board?
Hi, Chair, this is Brent Whitfield. I kind of, the idea of the doc stamps thing, how Mark described it as kind of a litmus test, and it just seems like an unusual situation. The developer's looking to do a $20 million improvement on the property, but there's an $8,000 hang up. It just seems kind of unusual. I don't know if maybe I'm not interpreting this correctly, but if it's not something we've ever done before, I just want to understand a little better why it would be a worthwhile variance from the way we normally operate.
Well, let me remember that we for the entire payment of the doc stamps at the beginning, but we negotiated down to half and half. And the issue was that the CRA is exempt to pay the stamps, but is, you know, the deals that I have done, that is paid by the seller, not by the buyer.
So standard practice for you has been the doc stamps are split with the seller.
No, the doc stamp is paid by the seller completely.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what would typically happen, but because
Right,
the CRA is a governmental agency, the statutes provide, you know, typically governmental agencies don't pay taxes. This is a tax, and
And the reason that this hasn't come up before is folks that have dealt with us in the past already knew that was coming, or they just stomached that blow, I guess.
Mhm. Maybe both. Yeah. I mean, I don't know when, you know, we haven't sold a piece of property for this price either. So, you know,
Yeah,
I don't
maybe
know
it's
if,
not a
I don't
big
know if the
number.
amount, you know,
Yeah.
the amount of the sale impacts the amount of the doc stamp. So I don't know
Right.
if it's necessarily, you know, so, but it's a policy decision on your part.
Okay.
If we're exempt, why don't we just pay the doc stamps and we don't have to pay them if we take responsibility, right?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I mean, it's not my dog. It's not my dog. It's if we're exempt from paying doc stamps, why don't we just take the responsibility for paying them and not pay them at all? Or
Looking like a lawyer.
Because the Department of Revenue will come knocking on our door.
Somebody's got to pay them.
okay, thought we were
Especially
exempt.
these days with the revenue in the state and the county going down.
But remember that in this case, the buyer, we are paying the entire doc stamp, but we are asking for a refund, you know, for half. So the CRA is not paying, we are paying, but we are asking for a reduction in price, let's say, for half of the doc stamps. But we started asking for the full amount, but we negotiated down to 50-50.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments, please, from the board?
This is Drew. So just kind of, I think this is where Brent was going. It's a $2.5 million deal, and we're dealing with $8,000 here. And so I'm wondering if this is, you know, we have so much dependence on projects succeeding and so forth, and these kind of stumbling blocks are going to come forward on projects, and you're going to have an 8,000 price here and a 10,000 thing there that's unexpected. And I'm just wondering why this shouldn't be a red flag for the CRA on this ultimate success of this project.
Well, let me explain you. We were under the impression when we got into this project that the doc stamps were paid by the seller, but things change, and we are asking for a reduction. You know, we cannot start swallowing every overrun or overcost right now from the beginning. So is what we're
So it wasn't in your calculations that you were paying for it. Got it.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Mark.
do we have consensus from the board, or do we need to amend a motion in terms of the extra two factors here on the development agreement? I mean, do we need to be clear about that?
Well, so we have a motion to approve the transaction, and we have a second, and we've had discussion. And this motion we would either need to have the motion or agree to amend in the second or also, or we would need to take a vote and have this fail and then take a second.
So the current motion includes both proposed amendments from the purchaser
It does.
currently. Okay.
That was staff recommendation, Mark, in this case. So if we can call the question if we've heard from everybody on the board.
No, I just wanted to clarify that. It wasn't clear to me. I see that it's here in the agreement though.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
So it's staff recommendation. Can we hear from staff why this is a good recommendation?
Sure. Joan, would you like to review that?
Sure. I mean, because of the schedule of payments that they're making, and because they are paying full price for the land, which is $2.49 million, and they're not asking for any other incentives besides the infrastructure grant, I really didn't have an issue with paying less than $10,000 for the dock stamps.
That's all I needed.
Yeah, that was helpful. Any other questions, comments, please?
Don't forget the public, Mr. Chair.
If I could ask Joan, what do you think of the idea of a potential amendment to the motion to kind of enact the idea Mark was describing, where that maybe we don't have the right to purchase after the slab is poured, but we do have the opportunity to have the permits assigned and the construction documents. Is that something that you feel uncomfortable with, or?
No, not at all. Actually, we did that for the Bohemian. So although we were going to, I think pay a certain portion of it, and what that was, I don't remember, but I think being able to have all their plans and continue with it is a really good amendment to make.
Yeah, I really appreciate Mark bringing that up as an idea, because like I think everyone believe Mr. Hernandez is going to move forward with the project, and I think the reason we selected it is because we really like the concept and believe in the project. But to give away that opportunity to kind of have anything, if some unknown thing occurs in the economy or what have you, I like the idea of having a little bit of flexibility to, from our end, try to keep things moving. Anyway, so.
But I have a question on the Bohemian. Did you pay a price for it, or was included without any price?
And I need to look at the language. I don't think there was a specific amount, but I think there's some language regarding paying pre-development costs of some sort, whether that includes costs for permitting, plans. I'd need to look at it. But I get the concept, and if that's the board's direction, is we can talk to Mr. Hernandez about that.
It sounds like there's some interest in that from the board. With does the motioner, Tom, do you have interest in amending your motion, or do you want to leave it as it stands?
No, I think that would be smart to do. So before I amend the motion, can I get that language again? I understand the concept, but what is the language, Mark, that you had said?
Well, yeah, and David, maybe you should weigh in here. I wasn't quite sure where to put it or how to phrase that.
Yeah, well, I think what Commissioner Rickards is looking for is that as part of the price paid for the right, if in the event the right to repurchase is exercised, that the CRA would pay the price for the land that the purchaser paid the CRA. In addition to that, the CRA would have the right to purchase all the plans, drawings, architectural, engineering, any permit fees, receive all that. And whatever that price is would be all part of the repurchase price.
I understand. So we're essentially not just buying.
I don't think that's right?
Sorry, Mark. Let me make sure. I think we went in a wrong direction. And I think, David, the intent, and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but the intent is for the ability for us to get those documents after the repurchase expires. We want that to survive the deal past the expiration of the repurchase and be kind of a side deal, right? So those documents wouldn't be purchased; they would be given to the CRA to help the person that takes over on the project, the company that would take over. Is that right, Mark?
Yep, that's correct. And I was thinking the value of that is $0.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it could be, if whatever we did for the Bohemian, maybe it makes sense. But the idea is, well, first of all, that it would never happen, right? But if it did, that there's no kind of sour grapes, let me cancel all permits, withdraw all permits, cancel the world. That would be very expensive to get back to the same point. And I don't think, that cost should be borne by the CRA. And I get it that we'd be repurchasing the land. I don't really have anything to say about whether there's a valuation for that. I was thinking 0, but if we had some other precedent with the Bohemian, I'm fine with that too. I just want to preserve all of those permits, plans, documents, and own them or have rights to them as a CRA, as a new landowner.
So in the event the project is not completed after the release of the right to repurchase, then the
Correct.
CRA would have the right to utilize those documents for its own.
But David, just one thing in my mind, we have that right, and we have that right up until that point. But then when with that release happens, we maintain that right. So I think we want to have that right even before the release to get those documents at $0 or some nominal sum, and that would survive the release date after the foundation is signed off.
Yeah. And Mr. Chair, I mean, I just want to communicate my intent. I'm sure there's a few ways to do it, and I'm not a contract specialist, but that was my fear I was trying to protect against.
So it sounds, this is Tom again. So making sure that I understand the will here, it's independent of the expiration date. What we're asking to do is we're asking to retain the rights to the permits, plans, and plans until when? Like when do we not have that right anymore? Because it sounds like it survives the foundation. So until when?
To the issuance of the CO.
Yeah.
Okay, till the issuance of the CO. I see. And do we need to be, Mr. Tolsis, do I need to be specific in the motion that I amend to include the things that we want to include? Or like, do I need to be specific about saying plans
I think that if you're looking to amend your motion, you would amend your motion to provide that the purchase and sale and/or development agreement and/or right to repurchase agreement would include the purchaser's assignment of all rights to architectural drawings, engineering drawings, construction permits, and related documents associated with the purchaser's proposed development.
Yes, but if it's included in the repurchasing agreement, then it doesn't survive the expiration of the
including it will include in there the survivability of that provision from all documents. It'll say this paragraph shall survive closing, this paragraph shall survive the termination of the right to repurchase, etc.
Yeah, okay. And is there like an umbrella term here that includes all of those things that you ticked off? Building plans, architectural plans, permitting fees, all that. Like, is there an umbrella language here that can be employed so that we are protecting ourselves kind of carte blanche across the board, or do we need to like enumerate these things?
I think I think you're going to have to enumerate them. I think we're looking at architectural drawings, engineering drawings, construction permits, site plan approvals, all entitlements associated with the project.
All approvals.
Ooh. All entitlements. That sounds good. Does all entitlements cover it?
For this purpose of this motion, I think at this point it would.
Okay.
We know the intent. Okay, so Tom, are you agreeable to that amendment?
I am agreeable to that amendment.
John?
Yeah, just understand that, this would be an incredibly complicated thing. First of all, we still haven't talked about what a trigger is that would trigger this event. It have to be something, okay? And plus, it'd be very complicated because you'd be taking back a property that's subject to a $20 million loan to a bank. So you could only do it either with a takeout bank or with that current construction lender who has the property owner under foreclosure or under some pressure to foreclose. It's a very in-depth thing that we're talking about here. So the likelihood of us actually using it is slim.
Okay.
And I point out that that's,
I approve.
that's our understanding with respect to the right to repurchase, that if at some point the CRA decides that it needs to repurchase a property, that it's going to be subject to any mortgages from any construction lenders. But I mean, the trigger would be that they fail to meet any of the milestones that are provided for. The other issues, I think Mr. Hernandez mentioned that the project will be bonded. So if the contractor he doesn't complete, then the lender will be working with the bonding company and in theory, potentially the CRA to make sure that the project gets completed.
That's why I asked that question.
Okay, so we have an amended motion and amended second. Mr. Hernandez, do you take issue with the amendment?
Well, my only question is gonna be, David, that is gonna, the lien is gonna survive with that provision, or the lien is gonna be totally clean after we pour the foundation?
No,
Well, the
David,
right to,
please.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
the right to
you know,
repurchase would be terminated, but the CRA would still have the right to utilize the plans and I guess work with the lender or whoever ends up with the property.
They're intangible items. They're not real property. So
Right.
all those approvals, the permits, they're all intangible plans. They're all intangibles.
And it just gives us the right, I think more importantly, that if we have to exercise the termination or exercise the right to repurchase, that we have the plans in hand.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and Emily, it's public comment. Do you have anything to read into the record for us?
There's no public comment for this item.
Okay, thank you, Emily. All those in favor, please state so by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Seeing none, Mr. Hernandez, congratulations. We look forward to a beautiful building on North Dixie Highway.
thank you.
Hey, thanks for coming to town.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you.
Okay, on to second item B on the action agenda, downtown property redevelopment RFP, multiple downtown lots. I need to recuse myself, so I'm going to turn the meeting over to Mr. Paxman.
Thank you.
I also have to recuse myself, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
And just for the record, that's Commissioner Rickards.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we have on our agenda action number 5B, the downtown property redevelopment RFP, multiple downtown lots. And what we have before us is a request by the staff to allow them to negotiate an agreement with Element, right? Element, or it's, I apologize, the name of the company.
It's Stateside Development and Rosemurgery Properties.
Right, there we are. So I knew it was them. But, so seeing as this is before us, and we have Mr. Rosemurgery and Mr. Weinstein before us, I guess we give them a chance to explain the project, or they're part of the project. Or we do staff first. What should we do, staff?
I can give an overview if you like.
Please.
Okay. As most of you know, for the past several years, the CRA, in partnership with the city, has been purchasing property in the downtown in order to create an assemblage. Originally, it was for a parking area or a garage. After years of negotiations, we were able to assemble actually 2 sites that would support the building of a mixed-use development on one assemblage, and on the other one, the opportunity for a garage if the city so chooses. Like with other assemblages in the district, the CRA advertised an RFP for it, number 02-1920, for the development of assembled parcels at Lake, L, M, 1st and 2nd, and a second assemblage at K and 1st Street next to the city's already established parking lot. Submitters had the option of submitting for Site 1, L&M, Site 2, K and First, and possibly Site 3, the city parking area. With Sites 2 and 3, submitters had the option of working in the future with both the CRA and the city on the possibility of working together on a downtown garage. Although currently a garage might not seem necessary once the CRA-owned parking lots on L&M are developed, public parking could definitely become an issue, especially as we work with other tenants and other property owners to attract more restaurants and businesses into the downtown. 3 very professional and thoughtful proposals were received for the RFP, and they include ANA Development, Atelier, and last but not least, Stateside and Rosemary. The RFP selection committee met online on September 18th to hear presentations and review the 3 submitted proposals. The top ranked proposal, Element by Stateside Capital and Rosemary Properties, are going to give a presentation to the board tonight. But in summary, their project includes just over 100 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, ground floor retail, a live-work component, U.S. Green Building certification, internal parking, modern amenities, quality design, and construction by very experienced and financed developers. The development team is also willing to, in the future, to work with both the city and the CRA on some kind of mixed-use garage concept on sites 2 and 3. Tonight, just as a reminder, we are voting not to approve this project. That's a decision made by the City Commission. We are instead approving to move forward with the development of a purchase and sale agreement and a development agreement. The site plans will still be reviewed by city staff, the Historic Resource Planning Board, and the City Commission. So there will be several more opportunities for public input. And with that, I would like to introduce Alex and Norman.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Can you hear us? Can you all, just making sure you can hear us?
Yes, we can.
Great. So I just want to say good evening, everyone. We appreciate the opportunity to present our project Element to the city of Lake Worth Beach. Element is designed as a 124-unit luxury mid-rise apartment development in the downtown. As you will see from the proposal, we worked hard to stay within the guidelines with respect to the architecture, massing, and height. This was based upon several discussions with the CRA and city staff. Before I go into some specifics about the project, some background regarding Norman and I. I'm Alex Rosemary, the CEO of Rosemary Properties. We've been in business since 1977 with over 43 years of experience. We focused on South Florida real estate, primarily in the Tri-County area. From our beginning, the cornerstone of our portfolio has been multifamily. We've owned, managed, and developed several thousand units in South Florida, in the South Florida market over the past 4 decades. Currently, we are in the process of developing or renovating over $250 million of apartments in Palm Beach and Broward counties. Most recently, we completed the 260-unit mid-rise luxury apartment project, Park 3400 in Davie, Florida, adjacent to Nova University. We're also the first developers to bring purpose-built student housing to Palm Beach County with the development of University Park at Florida Atlantic University. Currently, we're about to open Uptown Boca and West Boca, which is 1.1 million square feet of a lifestyle project in the West Boca community, which includes 456 mid-rise luxury and 180,000 square feet of retail, including Ariana, Silver Spot, and an organic grocery store. Our partner in this project is Norm Weinstein. As you all know Norm from his development in Lake Worth Beach. Like us, Norm is also a local real estate investor and developer. He brings with him a tremendous amount of successful real estate experience, as he's developed and owned a variety of real estate verticals, including office, industrial, retail, and multifamily properties throughout South Florida, New York, and Iowa over the past 40 years. His career started in the renovation of small apartment buildings in the west side of Manhattan. Norm has also developed a mix of high-rise residential, office, industrial, and retail projects in South Florida starting in the 1990s. Regarding the project, which I see you have the new rendering of. We have designed Element to be a 124-unit boutique 5-story apartment building. Our unit mix will be 62 one-bedroom apartments, 57 two-bedroom apartments, and 5 3-bedroom apartments. The building is a wrap design with an internal 4-story parking garage that will provide parking in close proximity to all units. The architecture was designed per the guidance of the City of Lake Worth Beach and RFP guidelines. When I say the architecture, I mean the original architecture that we submitted in the RFP. The design intent was a contemporary architecture that includes individual architectural features to articulate a more coastal design. Based upon direct conversations with the City of Lake Worth Beach staff, we were urged to move in this direction. At this point, as we stated before, these are simply lines on paper, and we'd be eager to modify the design, hence what you have in front of you now. This is a modernized design of what we previously submitted. There are a number of aspects of this design that can be changed. One unique aspect of this design is that this is the northern facing front of the building, which is more contemporary. One of the ideas we have is to keep the original design of the more coastal tropical elevation on the western and northern part of the, southern part of the project, so that that southern area, as you see, this project is very conveniently split by a parking garage. So what you're seeing on the elevation side is this northern side of the project and the eastern front, which will be kind of facing the downtown. The southern and western side, which is facing the neighborhood, we can make it as depicted here, which is more of a tropical, contemporary, coastal design, or we can bring more of the contemporary flavor that we brought to the north and eastern side. That's something that the CRA can discuss. We're open to either. Kind of a unique deal to have a project that has two architectural looks to it on the northern and southern end, and we feel that the northern end really complements what we're trying to accomplish, which is a unique, fresh look to the downtown. As Joan mentioned, the building will be a certified Florida Green Building Council project. It will include LED lighting, Energy Star appliances, reflective roofs, car charging stations, and an Uber Lyft lounge to encourage ride sharing. We work very hard at curating our amenity set. Our amenities here plan to include package and cold storage areas, a gym and cardio area, which will include high-tech web-connected equipment, and private conference rooms for our live-work residents. From a technology perspective, we also provide smart lock systems, which will provide a more app-centric living experience by making it possible to remotely control entry and exit, streamlining access for the new generation of resident-friendly service providers. Our technology package will also include managed Wi-Fi and high-speed internet service exceeding 1 gigabyte in bandwidth. Last but not least, about 68% of households own a pet these days. We are seeing pet ownership increase greatly in recent months at our communities. In response to this growing population, of pet owners, we spent a considerable amount of time designing what we affectionately now call our paw spas for our residents. This project will certainly include that unique amenity, as well as additional amenities to serve the pet-friendly environment. From a management perspective, it's all about creating a community, not just constructing a building. Over 60% of apartment residents polled believe that apartments should provide helpful services and amenities for the surrounding community. Fitting into the fabric of the community is critical to our success. It's important to note that we self-manage all of our properties for that reason. We believe you can build the nicest building in the area, but if you don't have an equally great team to run the property will certainly fail. We go a long way in our communities to provide resident events such as Taco Tuesdays and grab-and-go breakfast, bring your breakfast to work days, as well as other fun and exciting events that our community can partake in. Also engaging in service-friendly apps such as Hello Alfred, an app-based concierge service, give the residents additional ways to improve their lifestyle experience at the property. A successful project will bring customers to a great downtown. The success and synergy between this project and the local businesses will help to further improve and lift the downtown economy. Our last point of note today, and then I'll be happy to take any questions, is we're local developers. Rosemary Properties has owned and developed real estate since 1977 in South Florida. Stateside has owned and developed real estate in South Florida since the mid-1990s. This project will be capitalized by our own personal capital. We are the people that will be directly investing, developing, and managing the project. We will lean on our 100+ years of collective experience to deliver a project that both can add to the fabric of West Palm Beach and improve the lifestyle thereof.
Lake Worth Beach.
From the ownership perspective, this will be a long-term hold for us, similar to other assets in our portfolio. We take a very personal approach to our projects regarding the design, detail, and quality of management. We have a tremendous amount of pride of ownership. Our properties are our identity. That will certainly be true for this project. With that, I'll take any questions.
Anyone have any questions for the proposed developers?
So this is Drew. I don't think I have any questions. I was on the review committee, and Alex, I see you heard me, and looking for something more impressive, you know, to look at, I guess, because this is catty corner to our cultural plaza. So I do appreciate that. So what are your thoughts going forward? Because you've got more gauntlets to go through, and I know I have heard from stakeholders about the development here, and so you've got to get back through the city council and so forth. So what's your thoughts on engagement with the Lake Worth community on a go forward basis?
Yeah, so I mean, that really, you know, every city's different. We're happy to listen. We believe transparency is critical on these types of things, and we're certainly, you know, this will be something that Norm and I handle directly. We're not going to be sending representatives on our behalf. So we've been very successful, especially in West Boca, with meeting with the constituents. So we're happy to hold any type of public hearing or meeting that is required to get the people in the area comfortable, and have very open dialogue about some of the concerns that they have that might on this project with regard to parking or traffic or, you know, architecture or anything. I mean, again, these are just lines on paper, but we want to be able to accommodate the community. So we're very open to anything that the community might want to hear or see from us.
Yeah, I had a question about public parking on there. I see like 100 spots.
Brett.
We hear you, John.
Sorry.
All right. Sorry, I heard Joan talking. I thought she was answering. Well, I mean, I don't know who answers this. Like, so our concept with this project is to have 100 public parking spaces involved in this development, or no, or?
No, there's actually going to be no public parking spaces here, but the proposers are willing to meet with both the CRA and the city to talk about site 2 and 3 and come up with a design for possibly public parking on the other site. But this site would just include parking for the residences and enough for the retail people who will also be partaking in the development on the ground floor.
All right. Someone else has a question. I have a few other.
This is Tom. I just have a quick question for Joan. So what we're approving tonight is the go-ahead for the CRA to begin the negotiations on the purchase and sale agreement. Does the purchase and sale agreement include all 3 sites, or does it just include this site, or are these drawings in fact all 3 sites? I was a little bit unclear about that.
No, the purchase and sale and development agreement will only include these sites on L&M. We're still waiting for the city to kind of figure out what they're going to do as far as the parking is concerned, whether a parking garage is really something that the city needs, and whether we have enough space on the other site to do both parking and maybe some residential, or parking and some other kind of retail. So this would be like the first phase of it that we would do, and this would only take up the properties along L&M. It has nothing to do with site 2 or 3 at this time.
And a follow-up on that, site 2 and 3, would those be out for a separate RFP, or would they be included in this RFP, or is this developer shown interest in those sites as well? What's the relationship there?
Yeah, all 3 developers, including this developer, has said that they're willing to sit down with the city and talk about how perhaps they could work together. The issue with the other site is the three sites that are owned by the CRA and K and First are owned by the CRA, and then we have a large parking lot of 2 parcels that's owned by the city. However, the city can't sell that. So they want to somehow use their parcel to build some kind of perhaps a garage or some kind of, other parking feature, which kind of leaves us with just a few lots on the end where something could go, but we're not quite sure what that would be yet because it depends on the design and what the city decides as they move forward. So we would move forward with phase 1 here on L&M, and in the future, some kind of probably public-private partnership would have to be done between the city and the developers.
Okay, so with approving this to go forward with the purchase and sale agreement, does the possibility of like a larger assemblage between all 3 sites is not going to be possible, right? And I don't know that was ever considered to be a possibility by CRA staff. I don't recall if that was something that you guys were looking to do.
No, this assemblage actually started with the city and the CRA looking for area for parking when we had a developer who was interested in doing a hotel here. Then it kind of changed into, as more and more people wanted to sell their property, a really nice site that perhaps a larger project could go on. And then kind of at the same time, the other pieces that are next to the city's parking lot as it is came to us, and one of the owners wanted to sell. So we contacted the other owner. So they work together, but not necessarily.
Okay. Just so we're all clear about this. I mean, we see this, which is in the northeast corner of that block. So there's 2 J's is to the left of this picture that we see. Cultural Plaza is down and to the left. And there's that row of buildings across the street from it. And then we were showing another elevation that was on First and K?
L.
No, First and L or First and M.
So this is parcel 1 here, and that parcel back there is not part of what we're doing
It's all site 1.
Okay.
Do the overhead map.
Yes, if you would, thanks.
Just so we're clear.
Yeah. So originally, what was in the RFP was one big building, and it had a kind of Key West, Florida design to it. What the developers have done is they have kind of, in essence, split the building in 2. So one half would be a more contemporary building with more amenities and features that would be on the Lake Avenue side, while the other side, building 2, still on site 1, I know it's confusing, would have that more Floridian style Key West to it that would kind of flow a little better with perhaps some of the other properties in the area. It's just an idea. I personally think it's a great idea. On the selection committee, we all kind of thought that it was a great project, but we really didn't think, looking at it, it kind of really spoke to you. And we wanted a little bit more of an iconic building on Lake Avenue. So that's exactly what the developers have done. They've taken the parcels that are facing M and Lake and made it much more contemporary, while the buildings that are facing First and L have more of that Florida kind of style to it.
All right, and where's parcel 2 and 3 on this thing?
They are not here.
They're not there.
No, so none of the people who responded to the RFP wanted to build on site 2 or 3 anytime in the near future, just because we're still questioning, I guess, whether or not the city really needs a parking garage, and the city's doing some studies and putting together some numbers, and exactly how big that will be is kind of dependent on the city. So we really can't move forward with just doing the sites on the end of K and First at this time. So
You can almost see the other sites in the very upper right-hand corner of the top picture. There's a parking lot.
You are correct, yeah.
That's the other site, that
Okay.
parking lot.
Thank you.
So that's 2.
Layla.
What is?
That's site 2 and 3.
And 3
They're
is
right next to each other.
and 1 is still that building in the back corner over there. Yes or no? I mean, I'm trying to make sure everyone understands what the scope
Only site 1 is the rendering that you see.
is. The L shape, just the L shape.
It's
Or
two
the S-
L-shaped buildings with a parking garage in the middle.
Okay.
Yes, that whole thing.
All right, I was just looking for where, actually sites 2 and 3 are on this map, that's all, or they're not on this map. Are they here on that parcel somewhere or not?
In the photo, if you look in the on the top photo, in the upper right-hand corner, you see that parking lot there?
I see the buildings.
Now there's a parking lot up there. There's buildings, but just to the left of that building, there's a parking lot. But yeah,
Hold on.
put the hand over it.
There it is,
There
right
it
there.
is.
Oh,
Yep.
okay, over there. All right, got it. Now, I
Yeah. So that's 2, and 3 is just adjacent to it, going upper left.
it's basically all the property we've assembled in this block is site 1. Okay,
Correct.
okay, that's very nice to know.
Mhm.
All right, good enough. I guess, anyone have any questions for staff or developer?
John, I'd like to speak for a second. I was on the selection committee as well, along with Drew, and I just wanted to brief those of you who couldn't attend. Really, we had 3 submittals before us. One was just too big to work on the site. I really liked the kind of bold concept, but just wasn't viable. It was too big in this community. One was not able to really incorporate any retail frontage of Lake Avenue and couldn't pay. They were not offering to pay any money for the land. So although it was a interesting proposal, really wasn't viable for us as a decision. And the third one that we see here today really was the one that seemed like this is something that could work. The group we see here with Stateside Rosemary just felt like somebody that could really make this work. And I appreciate their flexibility in kind of addressing one of, Drew made the comment pretty clearly. This is a really critical corner. It looks right across from our cultural plaza space right there behind the City Hall Annex, and something that makes a visual impact. I've heard, and I think Drew mentioned, and I saw in the public comment that some of the neighboring residents have met with some of us. I know that I met with some over Zoom, and there is concerns. And so I want to let the folks that are developing this property know that, you know, we really appreciate their proposal and their efforts, and that getting this thing over the finish line in a way that's supported by the community, I think will involve some discussions or hearing some discussions from folks. And I think the fact that we've already started looking at a different design in the back of the property on the south side that might lend itself to fitting in with the look of the neighboring residents is a great sign. I know for myself, one of my first things I did in College Park was a neighborhood association president following John Paxman's lead in College Park a few years removed. One of my first activities as a resident was attending a block party in front of Mr. Paxman's house. So thank you, John. But we used to have our neighborhood association president council meetings right here in the where this block is. So there's kind of a history of communities using some of this space. And I was glad to hear the developer describe that the amenities in some aspects could be something that really were open to neighbors. So, you know, I support it. That was, you know, I was glad to be a part of the selection committee. I think it is the project based on financing and concept that fits what we want to see as a CRA. And I just think it's important that as it moves forward, it keeps in touch with residents, which I would expect that we'll have to go through the city processes with that have already been discussed with the commission and all these other panels and boards. So that's kind of my summary.
Okay, I'm just kind of looking for a motion, I guess, since we don't have any more.
Yeah, so I move approval as recommended by staff to move forward with the agreement with the developer for the Element property.
Motion
I'll
by
second that. This is Tom.
and a second by Tom Copeland. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, anyone want to go first?
Well,
So I
I think
wanna-
at this point, Mr. Chair Pro Tem, you now that you have a motion, you've had some discussion, you might want to ask if Ms. Theodosakos to read any public comment that's been submitted.
Sounds good. Emily, could we have any public comment that's come in? I know there's probably some, and also in the way of full disclosure, I did meet with 4 or 5 different people who they said they were stakeholders in the area via Zoom the other day. Some of them are definitely in this meeting listening in.
Thank you, John. First comment is from Christopher McBoy at 1514 15th Avenue North. Before you is a vote on a proposal to build a large 100+ unit building on a number of lots aggregated by the CRA and involving the removal of historic buildings. The relation between the approximately $5 million of taxpayer funds spent by the CRA in aggregating these lots and the amount to be paid by the developer is unclear. Future tax breaks to be granted the developer and for what time period are unclear. Upon question, members of the CRA board were unsure whether the proposed units would be rentals or condominiums. They were also unsure of the price points proposed for the units. My concern, shared by a number of other Lake Worth Beach residents, include the above uncertainties. Additionally, there is a very strong concern regarding the potential effects of the proposed building on the character and flavor of Lake Worth Beach's historic downtown. The flavor of this downtown is one of our strongest economic assets. We know that many downtown business customers, in fact, come from outside of Lake Worth Beach. It is hypothesized that building residential units downtown will significantly increase traffic and economic growth in the downtown. We are very concerned that potential desirable economic increase due to a relatively small number of individuals, many of whom may prove to be only seasonal residents, may be substantial outweighed by a negative decrease as outsiders lose interest in Lake Worth's downtown. Loss of character is potentially a strong negative. We note that of the 14 units in the new building, only 3 have homestead exemptions and less than half list it as their mailing address. We are particularly concerned about the aggregation of multiple properties, as this approach is known to weaken the character and attractiveness of the urban fabric. We are also very concerned regarding the lack of robust participatory public process for developing the RFP for this project. Lake Worthians tend to have moved here for Lake Worth's strong sense of community and its historic flavor. Absence of strong interactive public participation weakens faith in government and in the healthy future of our city. I recommend against voting to approve until such public participation takes place. Comment number 2 is Richard Stowe, 414 North Federal Highway. I recommend that the CRA board members vote no on the answer raised under 5 Action Agenda B, Downtown Properties. Number 1, the top 3 submissions to RFP 02-1920 are underwhelming and do not meet the minimum threshold for further review by the city boards. Number 2, the RFP itself is insufficient, as it provides no incentives or requirements for sustainable restoration of the existing contributing structures, even though all 3 south of Lake Avenue project site, 1 site, 2 lots, 13 and 19 South K Street, currently used for surface motor vehicular parking, lie within the historic Old Town Commercial District listed on the National Register of Historic Places on September 22nd, 2001. Comment number 3 was submitted by Thomas Conboy, located at 30 South M Street. I doubt you will receive much public comment from Lake Worth Beach citizens, business leaders, and property owners tonight. After inquiring to CRA staff about the lack of public comment on tonight's agenda at 2:05 p.m. today, Joan Oliva sent me an email with instructions, which are from the CRA website, which state that the public comments must be obtained by email by 5 p.m. the day before the meeting. She followed up with an email a half hour later allowing me to submit my comments by 5 p.m. today. But how does anyone else know they can do this? A group of us met with 3 of the CRA board members that were willing to meet with us. Thank you, John Paxman, Brent Whitfield, and Drew Bartlett for taking the time to listen to us. The agenda did not include public comment. This is the first agenda in at least a year where public participation on non-agenda items did not appear. If one of the board members we spoke with understood the public participation guidelines, how can you expect the public to understand them? Tonight, you are being asked to give CRA staff the authority to negotiate a deal with stateside Rosemurgy to build a mediocre 120 unit plus apartment complex in the heart of downtown Lake Worth Beach. They are offering the Lake Worth Beach CRA $2,851,000 for the land for the proposed project, subject to an adequate municipal incentive package. For land which the CRA and city has already paid $5,296,000 for. If public participation were clear and open, you would have heard from hundreds of concerned citizens, business leaders, and property owners tonight. They showed up to City Hall when the HRPBC's decision to allow this project to move forward was appealed to the City Commission. I implore you to postpone this decision until public participation can be included. Before granting staff the ability to finalize this deal, public workshops need to be conducted. I understand from my neighbor, at least 2 public workshops were conducted prior to the Lucerne building was consummated. Respectfully, Tom Conboy. Final comment, Betty Resch, 521 Lake Avenue. Hi, Betty Resch here. I see that there is no public comment on the agenda for tonight. I cannot express strongly enough a request that no decision be made before input from the community can be had. This is a crucial area in the city and should not be done behind closed doors. From the beginning, there has been no outreach to the public. As lovely as the element might be, it may not be the best for our city, as it is a generic building which says nothing about the city. It could be set down in the middle of anywhere USA and be presentable, but we can do better. This is an opportunity for growth in the city, which reflects who we are. The uniqueness of Lake Worth should be celebrated and not diluted as this project would do. It would be a shame to have this pushed through tonight, even if changes to that project could be made, with no real substantive input from the citizens. In addition, as there is pending litigation about the project, and it would be prudent for you to hold off until this is resolved. Thank you very much, Betty Resch. That's all for public comment.
All right. Discussion boards. Drew, is that your hand up?
It was, thank you. Joan, would you mind, you said it, I think, in your opening remarks, would you mind going over the public participation going forward and what other forums they need to go through?
Sure. So if this is approved by the board tonight, then at the next meeting, staff comes back with a purchase and sale and development agreement. And at that time, the public will have the opportunity to make comments.
Okay.
Then it goes to city staff and they do their reviews before it goes to the Historic Resource Preservation Board. And then they have a hearing, a public hearing. After the HRPB, it also has to go to the commission for 2 public hearings as well. So there'll still be 4 more opportunities, specifically CRA and city related, for the public to have an opportunity to speak.
Excellent. Okay. That's helpful. And a question for Alex, I guess. If I were able to get some folks together to have a conversation with you about the feel of the project and so forth, would you be open to that?
Absolutely. Norman and I would both be open to that, yes.
Okay, awesome. So
we would welcome it. We really would.
Okay, that sounds great. And so I appreciated all the public comments we got today, and certainly as I was reviewing the projects, I was looking for something that and I spent a lot of time like walking around the site, standing in the annex, and holding up pictures of these projects and figuring out what I want to look at, right? Just because it's got to represent Lake Worth. And I used to actually live on South L, right across from this project when I first moved down here, when I rented before I bought on North L. And so it's a very important project for me to be able to fit into the neighborhood. And so I am very much encouraged by the willingness of the developer to continue to work with us, and also very encouraged by the amount of process and public participation going forward on what this thing looks like. I think the city commission actually approved the fact that we were going to develop this property. The CRA did not make that decision. It was the city commission who's elected, and I put a lot of value in that. They did give us the charge to go put the RFP together and try to work through the process, which we do a very good job of, trying to make these things happen. Because the developer is very willing to engage and willing to look at and has already made changes based on feedback already, maybe this isn't what it lands in, I don't know, but just that willingness I think is very encouraging to me. So I am willing to support at this phase and what we're asked to do now, which is just to do a development agreement, which again comes back to the CRA board, and again subject to public participation, which I value as well. So I'm good, Mr. Chair, and I'm supportive of this. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Sure. This is Tom Copeland. I'll just throw some comments on the record here. So I met with some neighbors. I did not get those emails. I've been having some CRA problems, some problems with my CRA emails in this last week. We're working to resolve them. But that may be why I never received it. I mean, I'd just like to say I would have liked to have been part of that. I'm glad that a couple of commissioners jumped opportunity. I agree that it sounds like there's lots of opportunity going forward to in this. At this point, the RFP has been put out. We've got a winner of that RFP, and I'm looking forward to this project move forward. And the developers are giving the word to include community, and that's important, as everybody else has said, and I too would like to see that as well. But Joan, I just have one quick follow-up, and one of the public comments, just a clarification question. There's a question about the total paid for the assemblage of properties, which include 3 different sites, being at a little over $5 million, and this proposal being at around $2 million. Could you clarify $5 million figure that was cited? That is for all of the properties in downtown, not just site 1. Understand that correctly, or am I wrong about that?
You're right. So the $5 million comes from not only the lots that we purchase with the line of credit, but also lots that we purchase with city money, as well as lots that were purchased many, many years ago and have been used by the public for free parking for a very long time. So when we're talking about this block and we're talking about $2.85 million for, the total cost just for this block was $3.6 million. But some of those properties, like I said, were owned by the CRA before and used for public parking. So out of that, the CRA actually spent 1.9 and the city spent 1.6, and we will be reimbursing the city that $1.6 million, as well as paying down our debt.
Right. Okay. Thank you for clarification. And yeah, and my comments was saying thank you to Commissioner Field for chiming in about the other applicants and why you guys chose to go with this applicant. That was actually a question that I asked. So I'm glad that you did that, because that really shed a lot of, we get lots of fees, and maybe they're not all perfect, but it's about choosing the one that makes sense at this point in time. And this developer hit those nails. This developer has a history of successful projects, is well capitalized, well funded, it seems, and has already developed inside Lake Worth Beach. Going to come back. So, to me, I really appreciated Field that you laid those thoughts out. So, with I'm also in support of this motion forward, and asking the CRA to put together agreements to move this project forward.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody, other board members have something they would like to add to the discussion?
I'd just like to say I appreciate the public comment and interest. I do think it's important that we make sure we hear and get input from the neighboring residents. And I am glad to hear that the developer is looking forward to the opportunity to get that discussion going. And I think, you know, as has been described, there's a lot of stops for this train before it gets to completion. And I don't want to slow it down at the first station. So that's one of the reasons I'm happy to move forward with the motion.
All right, anyone else? Leah, be quiet.
I'm good. I like the project. I do appreciate the public concern. I'm glad to hear that there's going to be opportunities for that to be addressed. And as has been stated, we have kind of a history with Mr. Weinstein as a developer, and I'm enthusiastic to work with him going forward.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. As the board stated itself with its commentary. Here, so David, is it appropriate to call the question?
Yes.
All right. All those in favor of following the staff suggestion of entering into a negotiation of the development agreement with the applicant, signify by saying aye.
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 All,
I see your thumb up, Commissioner Bartlett.
all those opposed? Anyone? All right.
All right, let the record reflect that the motion passed unanimously with Commissioner Rickards and Chair Lynch recusing themselves. So 5-0.
If you get those guys back on, I want to give this gavel back over, the virtual gavel back over.
That's enough of Commissioner Paxman, huh?
Yeah.
Gotta throw it.
Chair Paxman.
Well, thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You got your work cut out for you.
Yep.
Now the fun
Thank
begins,
you.
right? Thank you.
Here you go, Brendan.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Nice job. Okay, let's move on.
Everyone have a nice night. Good night now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, Executive Director's report, Joan?
Thank you, Brendan. First up is movie night. We're doing a movie night on October 23rd as part of our Day of the Dead festivities. The movie will be The Book of Life. It will be playing at 8 o'clock here at 11:21. Obviously, we ask everybody to wear masks and socially distance and all that good stuff. And then a little bit about the sand sculpture. It's called I apologize for this, La Calavera. It will be on display from October 15th to November 2nd in the Cultural Plaza. And we've had a lot of really great companies sponsoring us this year, especially because there's not a lot of grant funding. So I just want to say that we really appreciate all the support that we've been getting from the community. Last but not least, in your packet is a progress report. I'm happy to say that in addition to downtown, we have a number of projects moving forward, both on 6th Avenue South, on Dixie Highway, on 10th Avenue, and of course on the west side here of downtown near Hatch. So if there's any questions in regards to the progress report, I'm more than happy to listen to those. If not, I am complete. Thank you.
Joan, thank you for that. Any questions for Joan on any of those items? Seeing none, let's move to board member comments. How about John? You want to kick us off?
Sure. I'm glad we got the 17th North project going. not going, but we got it over to the kind of to the end of the thing so that they can actually start really doing something for that part of the city. I look forward to seeing that being out of the ground along with the finalization of the project at 16th Avenue North. It'll be a real change to the north end of Dixie Highway. As I said, I'm glad we have room for much more time for public input into this project. It's probably going to be, I mean, even without a charrette, there's going to be like, what, 6 more times it's going to be public input on this. But I don't know what the city's going to want to do. I mean, going forward, it's really, you know, the city's choice of what they want to do. That's all.
Thanks, John. Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not many things to say. I was going to echo your comments, John. It's nice to see the mid making progress, and thanks for that photo of the lobby, Joan, that you circulated. But I'm also glad to see the 17th Avenue North block on the agenda tonight moving forward. Appreciate everyone on this board, and I can't believe this year is coming to a close with a couple more meetings. Hard to believe. That's it.
It is. Okay, how about Tom? Okay, Drew?
Oh,
Yep.
I'm unmuted.
There's Tom. Sorry.
Second
Go
month in a row, I inadvertently muted myself. Just want to echo the rest of my fellow commissioners' statements. Looking forward to a lot of these projects moving. Looks like we've got a lot of activity. This has been a busy year for us despite COVID. And it's been a pleasure working with you guys now and looking to the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Drew?
Thanks, Chair. First, I'd like to welcome Commissioner Robinson to the CRA meeting. It's good to see your face. Thanks for joining. You know, it was my first experience being on a review board for, you know, ultimately the Element, and it was a good experience. Certainly, it was a tough choice, but you know, and a tough way to score. But I'm really happy with the developer. We're going to have a successful relationship. I feel confident about that. So I'm happy to have had that experience, and I'll think twice about signing up for it again. But I really wanted to thank the staff for helping guide me through that. It was very helpful, and I'll be a better commissioner for it in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Drew. Leah?
Sure. First of all, sorry about the pets. I can't believe the cat was problematic too. That's why I usually do this at work. I'd like to echo the comments on the mid. Ever since I started working in Boca rather than Palm Beach Gardens, I don't find myself driving that part of Dixie very often. And I did over the weekend, and I was like flabbergasted at the progress. It's amazing. So, and I echo Mr. Paxman's comments regarding this new development downtown. So thank you all, and stay well.
Thanks, Leah. Brent?
Yes, I agree, of course, with fellow commissioners. The mid is looking awesome. I'm really excited about that. It's been really cool in my short time, well, middle amount of time, I guess, on the CRA to see how much has really changed and how much is going to continue to change. The downtown is, you know, really important to me. I know my family and I have spent a lot of time down there, and we like to ride our bikes down and shop at the stores and frequent the restaurants. And it's my belief that projects like the Element and what's looking forward at the Gulfstream and things that are happening downtown are going to give more opportunities for folks to frequent those businesses. So I'm really excited that we're making that change. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of that happening on Dixie as well. So thanks for the opportunity, and I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brent. So when you go last, everybody takes all the good stuff. So I appreciate everything that everybody's said and agree with all of you. I'm proud of the work that we do here as a CRA, and I, just want to emphasize how great our staff is and the team that supports everything that we do and puts everything together and gives us all the information, including our staff and of course Mr. Tolsis. Thank you, and that's all for me. And Herman, thank you for joining us and welcome. Have a great night. Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good night, everyone. Good seeing you. Stay well.
Hey, Herman.
Hey, Betty.